That's why we want to keep in contact with you by doing this kind of virtual learning, right? That is useful for teachers, of course. And the topic we're going to be dealing with today is very appropriate for our context, right? Blended learning. And I guess some of you are already familiar with this type of new way of teaching, right? So I guess that we're going to share a lot of information together. If not learning something new, you are going to be able to share everything you know with us. From time to time, I'm going to ask you to tell me what you think about a specific topic. So I would like you to write your questions in the chat, please. Don't open your microphones because we understand that you are in different rooms in your corresponding houses. So it's going to be kind of annoying to have a lot of noise. I'm close to the street as well. There aren't a lot of cars right now, but anyway, there's still some noise. So let's just keep it quiet, okay? I can see some of you because your cameras are on, so it's good to see some faces, okay? And of course, this is me, and we'll be sharing some time together, okay? Jimena is the hostess, so she will be handling this session by sharing or transmit me what questions you might have, okay? And let's start, okay? So this is a session based on blended learning, introduction to blended learning and blended learning models, okay? Let's see what's going on with my presentation. Okay, there it is. Blended learning is a phrase that we hear more and more often, but what is it exactly? What is blended? What is blending learning? Okay. We are going to apply blended learning in education, but education isn't the only place where the word blended is used, okay? We can blend many different things. For example, what do you think are things that we can blend in our daily life? What do we blend? Can I have some answers in the chat? What do we blend?
Ahí estás con tu micrófono, ya vale. Lo que tú
Answers
hables,
in the chat, please. Family and work, okay, that's right. You can, this time, in this context, we are blending, spending time with the family and having some time for work, that's right. Your daily activities with your family time, activities in the house and also working, theory and practice, studies and work. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of answers. Letters to, oh, I skipped one, okay. American English and British English, okay. Okay, these are the things that we blend. For example, I guess that these days we have to cook, right? And somebody mentioned food. Maribel mentioned food, right? That's right. We blend food when we cook. We have to be cooking these days. I can't cook at all. I am forced to cook, and I'm blending different things to create new dishes, okay? Because I'm not an expert cook. Okay, you can blend traditional classroom, okay? You can blend models of learning, different teaching methods, that's right. But in our daily lives, we can blend, for example, we can blend coffee, right? We can blend paints to obtain different tones of colors, right? We can blend metals, well, not we, but maybe expert people can do that. And we can blend baby food. How do we do that? Okay, blending varieties of coffee combines the best flavors from different coffee beans to produce a richer, more interesting taste. Do you like drinking coffee? Right? For example, that picture that I'm showing in the slide, yes, it's like some cravings that I'm having these days, right? We are not having access to Starbucks or any coffee shops. That's right, delicious, coffee is delicious. Yes, I'm sorry for tempting you, okay, with the picture. Yes, we can also blend paints so that artists can have the exactly right hue for the picture, right, for what they're painting. So we can blend paints. What else can we blend? Alloys, for example, are blends of metals which display properties of strength that single metals on their own do not have, right? That's for jewelry, for example, or for building machines, etc. And baby food is blended so that it's easier to digest for the babies, right? We put different ingredients in the blender and we obtain something new and which is better for babies or for little children, right? Why do we blend things in general? We blend things to improve the final product in some way, right? Do you agree? That's right. That's what we want to obtain, a better teaching for you and a better learning for students. That's why we have to blend, in this case, teaching and learning and different strategies and approaches and techniques. You all agree, right? Yes, I'm getting a lot of yeses. That's right. Now, what is blended language learning? Okay, so we have seen some blends, right? Coffee, alloys, and metals, baby food, etc., paints, right? So blended learning can describe any combination of teaching techniques or resources with the goal of making learning more interesting, better suited to the learner, and more effective. And I think we all agree with this one, right? Now, blended language learning is nothing new. We are all familiar in one way or the other with blended learning, and we are always incorporating techniques, blended learning techniques in our teaching. Maybe we haven't realized that yet, okay? Well, for example, when we are using a specific teaching technique, we can be using task-based learning, okay, and some sort of audiolingual teaching techniques as well, right? Okay, yes, that's one way of blending things. Um, Blended language learning is summarized in the combination of normal classroom activities with self-study learning, okay? Of course, we need some support, the support of technology, okay? Now, a more complete definition of blended learning is an integrated combination of teacher-led learning with independent digital learning, okay? Now, the blends are different. We go from blends that rely specifically on technology to those blends where we don't require nothing extra from the part of the teacher or the school. I think that we need a balance, right? So having 50% of teacher-led classes with 50% of technology makes a perfect blend, okay? Do you have any questions at this point?
Hello, Paola. This is Clara Clavijo from Cuenca, Ecuador.
Hello, Clara.
Hello. I do have a lot of questions pertaining blended learning. Blended learning is actually shared with the physical classroom and also with technology. However, right now, what we're doing is 100%
Online.
technology because of the situation.
I know.
Now, my question, I'm having problems with my students' commitment to learning the language. I am using different resources. I'm using Zoom, I'm using Google Meet, I'm using the Moodle platform, I'm using RLP, Richmond Learning Platform. So I'm trying to use or get a hold of the different resources that we have. However, I would like to know what are the guidelines for doing not blended learning, because this is actually 100%, as I said before, technology or learning the language through technology. I have um, I have been telling my students that I need 100% of commitment because what they have to do is read all the instructions that students have to follow in order to carry out the different activities.
Yes.
you can tell me what are the guidelines for doing, this is actually a student-centered
Yeah.
activity. They have to comply with all the activities. How can I get my students 100% of commitment?
Well, I think the key is interaction. That is offering them something that will help them and will engage them completely. I know this situation caught us by surprise, and in most of the cases, we didn't have time to plan, right? There are different steps that we could follow, and I said could because we can't do that now unless we had the time. We don't know. For example, in Peru, we are supposed to stay at home until this week, right? We don't know if it's going to continue or not. But anyway, if you have the time to do this, we have to plan and we have to do different things. We have to decide what type of learning is appropriate for your students, if they are visual maybe, or auditory, or kinesthetic. Well, kinesthetic doesn't work right now, of course, right? But the key is looking for specific programs that will allow interaction, right? And I think it would be kind of impossible to have 40 or 30 students in one classroom having a lot of faces and everybody wanting to participate. I think it's complicated. Right now, for example, I have a niece, she's 10 years old and she's at school, and my sister has just sent me a picture of her having a class with her classmates. But apparently her school organized that in groups of 5 people, for example. Okay, and they do the activities and the teacher is showing them PowerPoints and asking them questions, but in small groups, right? Now, the commitment, as our teacher said before, I mean, I don't think that's a lot that we can do about that, right? Because the commitment comes from them, and maybe they would need their parents' support as well, right? So it's kind of difficult to work with that. I mean, to deal with that. I don't know if that helps. Talking about what you told me, that you are using technology 100%. In fact, the first model I would like to show you is somebody said Simon Says, and I think that you can use that in the classroom as well, because if you have a camera, you can stand in front of it, you can play that game with them, and you can watch them. Somebody suggested that in the chat, okay? The 100% online model is useful these days, and we can use video conferencing apps like Skype, or Google Hangouts, or we can use this Zoom, which is free, for example, and we are using to be face-to-face. I can see some of your faces right now. There are a lot of teachers with their cameras on, and I can see you, okay? And I can see your reactions. Now, there are other tools that do not allow teachers to see their faces unless there are few teachers or people in the room, right? We can use that. Google Hangouts or Skype, they would need an account for that. I don't know if it's appropriate for children to have a specific account, but anyway, okay? Now, the email is the classic way of sending homework, for example, or giving them something to read, for example, right? This will help specifically when we want to communicate with them, okay? Now, file sharing programs like the clouds. We have Dropbox, we have Google Drive, we have OneDrive, etc. There you can share their material, okay, and work and send them things that they might find useful for this stage of learning, okay? Now, the virtual classroom platforms, they attempt to recreate classroom conditions, of course, and well, we have to do our best, right? We can also see our faces by using a webcam, and we can use other interactive means of communicating, such as chat boxes and whiteboards that you can write on. And I think there are specifically great programs for using that. If you are using the RLP, there's a specific part, the forums, where you can interact with the students in real time, practically, right? And you can add images and you can create specific topics so that students can answer based on the question asked there, right? So somebody is suggesting here to do the show and tell with items from home, for example, and they can, yes, that's a good way of interacting and engaging and challenging them as well, right? It's easy. For example, I have a mouse right here. This is a mouse, and they can describe the mouse by using the vocabulary they just have. Google Drive, I mentioned it. It's the drives that we have, the clouds, right, for sharing material and things like that. But I think the best thing is to use a camera, because whenever we see that there is at least one face watching me on the other side of the screen, that will help a lot, I think. Thank you, teachers, for your suggestions. I've been reading them and I find them really, really useful. Okay? Now, the 100% online learning method is useful these days. Now, what happens if we're coming back to school, to classes, to normal life? Okay. Now, we can combine our teaching methods, right? In most situations, we're going to use the teacher-led lessons in the classroom, and the online part is going to be delivered through a website or what we call a virtual learning environment, or VLE, right? Sometimes it's known as a learning management system, okay? These learning management systems is what the RLP from Richmond is, for example, is some sort of workbook, okay, but a more interactive one, right? This can be used for the homework assignment, for example, okay? Exercises can be more varied and active, and students are given instant feedback on their work, right? If you are constantly checking their homework there, you can add some comments to what they're doing, okay? And well, online workbooks allow teachers to keep a check on their students' performance and can be updated with new material at any time, right? We have different ways of doing that, right? Assigning content, checking the homework, writing some comments about the results, that is feedback, of course. And there's been a lot of online materials for teachers to use in the classroom, right? For example, we have animated grammar presentations that we can find online. They are not complicated to find. There are vocabulary games as well. And these open up a range of possibilities for us, right? For students to learn as well. You can choose whether to use the traditional way, the traditional lesson plan, okay? Or go completely digital, or find a balance between the two to suit the students' learning needs, of course. Okay. Well, somebody says here that not all of the students, or you don't know if all of the students have the computer, and they can, sometimes they're just one computer at home and mom has to use it for work, and then the child has to use it for the homework as well. Right, well, we have to adapt, right? Now, not talking about teaching English specifically, but I've read in some places that organizing a schedule is excellent, right? I mean, mom can have the computer and work from 10 to 12, for example. The child can use the computer from 12 to 2, for example, and that uses the computer in the afternoon. And meanwhile, you can use the free time without the computer that you have to do homework or to check the writing material that teachers might send as well. Okay, what kind of feedback is good at this time? Well, we have to be very positive these days, I think. Okay, I understand that some things are not well done by students, but I think that saying incorrect or no or wrong answer is not the right way to congratulate students, or we need to praise them, right? We have to use the correct and appropriate words, specifically these times when our moods are not like in their best moment, for example, right? You can do it better, that's right. Next time you can do it better, or you can take advantage of the situation and send them extra homework to that specific student. Remember that in our Richmond Learning Platform, we have the chance to assign homework not only to the whole class, but to specific students. You can choose who needs extra homework, extra points, extra support, and you can assign this student extra material. Or you can send this student privately more work to do, or more explanation, or maybe you can arrange a private face-to-face by computer, of course, session, right? We need support from parents. That's right. Somebody's mentioning this right now. Words or phrases are important. We need parent support. We have to take a lot of things to take into account, right? Forums are great tools. That's right. We have the chance to be in contact, right? If we don't have cameras or microphones available at home, we have the forums always, right? The forum in our Richmond Learning Platform. Yeah, well, sometimes I'm reading another opinion here. For example, you call students, you see them connected and they don't answer, okay? And they tell the teacher that the microphone is not working and others remain silent, right? Well, we have to force them. We have to call them one by one, for example, okay? Um, yeah, well, as teachers, we have to do everything that we have at hand. And these days it's kind of complicated, but I know that we're doing our best, okay? Not force them like force them, right? But giving them opportunities and make them want to participate. For example, I just remembering the Simon Says game that you proposed by doing it here in front of the camera, right? And you can watch, for example, I have a window where I can see your faces, the participants' faces. So we can do that. We can play Simon Says, right? And I can tell you and I can watch you. So if one student is doing nothing and watching the others is going to motivate them, let's take advantage of that situation. Okay? Now, there are other approaches that we can use or that we can incorporate into blended learning, okay? And they involve taking into consideration the models, right? How people participate or technology participates in the process, okay? Now, one of the, I'm sorry, one of these models, for example, is a face-to-face driver, right? So teachers deliver most of the curriculum and a physical teacher, a teacher who is in the classroom, employs online learning in a technology lab or the back of the classroom to supplement, for example, right? That is, we have a teacher who is kind of monitoring students by doing some work in the laboratory, for example. And of course, we have the online lab, right? We have a platform that delivers the entire course, but we have to go to the building where the course is taking place, right? And they can do some work online. So it's kind of making students move and go to the place, and of course, giving them the chance to work with the technology that is available. I know that not all of the schools have these facilities available for teachers, but if you are the lucky one who has one of these forms of implementation, you can work well with that, okay? So other approaches that you should analyze to use when you come back to classes or if you change your teaching methods can be the rotation method, for example. Students rotate on a fixed schedule between the self-paced online learning and sitting in a classroom with a face-to-face teacher. So we have one group working online or with technology and another group with working with a teacher, right? And we like prepare, for example, um, um, different approaches or strategies for different groups, maybe, or specifically if we organize them by taking into account their learning style, okay? The flex approach is the online platform delivering most of the curriculum and teachers provide support as needed, right? Through the in-person group sessions. For example, the self-blend, the student chooses to take these online courses to support the traditional curriculum, for example, and it's very popular among high school students, not in Latin America, I think, but it's a way to apply this type of learning. And we have the online driver where we have an online platform and the teacher delivers the curriculum and students work remotely, which is what we're doing right now. And we have some face-to-face checks when we have the time, of course, after all this ends, okay? And the check-ins like are available, are a possibility, or they can be mandatory. For example, this is some things that universities do, for example, for teaching their English classes, okay? Um, somebody's mentioning in the comments that flipped classroom is a good way of blended learning usage, and that's right. We're going to mention that in a while in this presentation, okay? Now, I have this quote, okay, by Dutney and Hogley, and it reads, today's learners are often said to breathe technology, and this must be used to the full by the teacher because learning happens everywhere, not just in the classroom. This is particularly true in this digital age of ours. I would like to know if you agree. Okay, please type your comments in the chat window. Okay, you agree, Cynthia agrees, Maria Intriago agrees, strongly agrees. Okay, Maria Paredes and Patricio Bastidas, they agree. Erika, Diego, Eduardo, wow, everybody agrees. That's right. Now, there are some limitations. Nicolas agrees, Santiago agrees, everybody agrees, okay? There are limitations, of course, but we have to work with what, sorry, we have to work with what we have at hand, okay? Luckily, I have a computer. I can deliver this session online. I have internet connection. This is my cable, for example. I'm using it. I have some knowledge and I did some research. So this is what I'm doing, okay? I'm taking advantage of technology. Somebody mentioned before that the Richmond Learning Platform is not mobile friendly, right? That might be true because some of the things of the features are not appropriate for a small screen such as the computer. So that's why it works perfectly in a laptop or a desktop or a tablet maybe, okay? Most of you agree, each day is an opportunity to learn and to be a nice human. That's what Estefania Cruz says. Mario Gatica agrees as well. Yeah, that's right. Children are most technological than most of us maybe, okay? And well, it's there's something new to learn from our students, and there's something new we can teach to our teachers as well. Okay, very good. I know that you all agree with this. I'm happy to see that this is particularly true for most of us. Okay, yeah, practice makes perfect. I totally agree with that as well. Teresita Quiroz agrees too. Very good. Okay, now let's explore some of the benefits that blended learning has. Okay, which do you think are the benefits of blended learning? Okay. Well, with little kids, somebody is asking, what can we do with little kids? Well, we need to use the components that our programs offer. Most of them have digital CD-ROMs, right? What uh, virtual learning environments are not appropriate for little children because they do not know how to type, for example, or read or write, so it's kind of difficult for you, right? Autonomy, somebody mentioned autonomy as a benefit of blended learning. That's right. What else? What are the benefits of using blended learning? Take advantage of the situation. Students love technology. Teachers need to be prepared. They need to know how to use technology first. Become independent learners, using videos, you maximize your time. That's a good one. Yes, I like that. Classes can be more interactive. We can have more learning opportunities. Students get more responsible. That's right. Okay, I agree. Okay, some of the benefits I found, and I wanted to summarize them in 4 items only. It's that we as teachers can respond more appropriately to learning styles, okay? Now, you know that there's, in our classrooms, there's generally a mix of learning styles and preferences, right? So with blended learning, students have the opportunity to work in a way that best suits them, right? We can personalize or tailor our teaching techniques specifically for groups of students. Yes, we can make it more interactive. We can, as I told you before, in the Richmond Learning Platform, there's the chance to assign content one by one, not to the whole group, but one by one. So if a student is more visual, I can assign them more visual content, such as pictures or graphs, etc. And to auditory learners, we can send them audios, etc. And we can find audios anywhere in the internet, of course, right? We can use a very different techniques that we have at hand. We can give our students more individual attention, okay? As I told you before, we can focus on one student who is struggling with specific topics, for example, and we can send this person or this student specific types of tasks, right? Either loading them in the cloud or sending them by email or having a face-to-face, a virtual face-to-face conference, for example, or video call, right? Mm, you can send students different videos and activities for them to develop online. And I think there's something I want to mention about that. This is practically the theory of blended learning, okay? And it would be great to have a second session because we can show or we can share the specific tools that we use, right? For example, right now, I am about to develop some tutorial sessions online, and I am going to create my own videos by using PowerPoint, for example. And it's nothing complicated. I'm not techie. I'm not expert. I'm not a systems engineer or anything like that. But by doing some research, I found that the perfect way to create a tutorial, a video for my students to understand better specific topics is by creating a PowerPoint presentation, for example, and of course, recording my voice. I know it takes time, but that's our work, right? If we want our students to learn, we have to give them our best, okay? What else? Individual attention. We create confident learners because they are free. They feel free to learn whenever they want, and if they are responsible enough, they are going to be doing this as a fixed schedule. Somebody said, the teacher who intervened in the presentation before, who was wondering how can we make or engage our students better in these type of classes, we have to create a routine for them, right? um, it's not the same routine that parents are going to impose the students, right? Because they are their parents and we are just their teachers, but we are also worried about their learning. So um, they need to be motivated, of course. Medium says that we need to be motivated and we need to give them the tools that we have at hand. Maybe they can show us some tools. We can share our tools. For example, PowerPoint presentations are very good use tools, are very useful tools, sorry. Okay, now somebody mentioned as well that one of the benefits of blended learning is to encourage and discover and foster autonomy. That's right, because we're giving them reasons to be present in the classroom. We're giving them reasons to learn, to stand or sit in front of the computer, watch our faces and interacting, right? You are mentioning some examples of the tools that we can use to motivate students, and I'm reading one note from Microsoft. Somebody said something like, let me check, the Drive, participative classes. You can do reviews, for example, give them reading comprehension exercises, which are easy, right? We need to allow students to work at their own pace. What can you use as a tool, for example? PowerPoint videos work great, okay? And uh, there are specific tools that are already online, and I think that you are familiar with Kahoot, for example, right? And we have Padlet as well to post some notes, etc. Yeah, you can use Zoom, which is a platform or the tool that we're using to get in contact right now. Okay, Google tools, we can use Quiz with 3Zs, right? And Powtoon to make entertaining videos, that's right. Google Classroom is another excellent tool. You know, you can be doing this session instead of me, huh? You know more, I bet that you know or have more tools at your disposal than me, okay? Yeah, we can explore them in another session maybe, okay? But we have to take into account that this blended approach helps teachers respond to learning styles better, right? And we are going to maximize the strengths of each environment, okay? Everything that we do for our students is for their own benefit, of course, right? So if you think it's appropriate for your students, use it, but don't forget that you need to establish a plan. I have a group of students who don't want to participate, and I have another group who definitely want to participate. So how are you going to balance that? So that's some planning that you have to do, okay? Google Classroom, I'm receiving a lot of suggestions as well. Quizlet, again, is good, that's right. So That's for students, and for you teachers, you may have a lot of sources where you can get your ideas from besides your own mind, right? Because this is the first creative tool that we have at hand, okay? Our creativity. With the students who don't have access to internet, well, how can you encourage them? Well, I think most of the students or most of the schools that you are teaching at, they have some tools available, right? For example, Richmond programs, they always come with some sort of digital component, right? So that's the first step, okay? The reality in Ecuador is that not all of the students have access to technology. But I think things will have to change after all the things that we are going through right now, okay? Maybe the government should pay more attention to that aspect, okay? Yeah, well, that's right. If I were the president, well, that's something else, right? Okay, talking about learning styles, somebody suggests doing telephone calls. Well, that can be a first step. Why not? Okay. Talking about learning styles, knowing our students' learning styles helps us to respond more easily to learners' different styles, of course, by maximizing the strengths of each environment, okay? It is easy for the teacher to prepare programs of study that take into account such learning styles. What should we do, for example? We can first analyze or test what type of learner my student is, right? Now, here I am giving you a link where students can take a quiz. They just click there and there will be a series of questions and they will have a result, right? Um, for example, I did this with an online virtual course we developed here in Lima. Students or teachers, because the course was for teachers, were supposed to find the learning style, okay? And the results were amazing. Teachers didn't know that there's learning style was that or the other, okay? Some teachers, for example, had 50% of auditory learning style, and the others had 50% of visual learning style, so they were surprised, right? So that's why we have to balance, right, our teaching. So there's a link where you can that you can give your students and they can take the quiz. It's very simple. There are not too many questions, and there they will have the results, and they can send the results to you so that you can adequate your teaching, sorry, to those different learning styles. So we have 3 learning styles, right? We have the visual, where we are supposed to use more pictures, more images, and you can make them watch videos, for example, or look at PowerPoint presentations and slides. We have the auditory, we can give them more audio or we can read to them, for example. Maria and Diego is asking me, you want something, the link is there, take a picture of it or make a screenshot, etc. Okay, and we can do many different activities, work with many different activities sorry, I did something with my screen. Okay, you can like test what type of learning your students have, right? Blended learning definitely helps teachers give learners the attention they deserve, right? By developing a course that will make learners that will take learners' needs more closely into account, okay? We can ask learners to cooperate in a task. They can work alone because we know some teachers are also, some students, sorry, they like working in isolation because they are shy, because that's just the way they are, okay? I'm kind of shy as well, right? So maybe working by themselves helps as well, okay? A blended approach is also particular appropriate for language learning, as they can use their specific type of learning, right? Visual, they can choose texts, they can choose to write, they can have both reading and writing and listening and watching, etc., right? So that's why we say that one of the benefits of using blended learning is is provides students with learner autonomy, okay? There's a teacher who just copied the link in the chat window, have access to it. Thank you very much, Jose. Yes, thank you very much. So there you are. That's the link. Next slide. Okay, very good. And what about the individual attention? Okay, I think it's difficult for us teachers to pay individual attention for students in the classroom because we cannot spend more than 5 minutes with one student because the others will start talking and chatting and standing up and asking permission to go maybe. Okay, but we have to take into account two things. Okay, in a classroom, there's normally three groups of students, okay? We have the top 10% of the class made up of fast learners. Do you agree? I think everybody has that group there. Sorry. And we have the bottom 10% made up of slower learners. Okay, I'm sorry, I need water for a second. Give me 20 seconds, please. I'm sorry, I've been talking nonstop for 42 minutes. That's why I needed some water. Okay. So we have 10% made up of fast learners and we have 10% made up of slower learners. Okay. And what happens with the 80%? Teachers normally tend to pay attention to the 80%. Okay. So the top 10% are called the high flyers. Okay. And they are encouraged to expand their knowledge and go beyond what is required in the examination, for example, if we're examining them. So searching for answers to their own questions online or preparing next week's topics in advance of the class. So that's one task we can give the high flyers. Challenge them, make them go beyond, okay? What happens with the slower learners? Okay, the slower learners can be provided with extra help online, the help they need, through, for example, structured activities or graded activities, and they can be able to revise and consolidate online everything that has been presented. Okay, maybe you can ask them to give you a summary of what they have been shown. Okay, and you have to let these students to work at their own pace, at their own rhythm as well. Okay, but always encouraging them and not letting them know that they are the slow learners, but they are challenging learners. Okay, so let them participate as well. Okay. So we have different levels, we are pressed by time, we have the syllabus that is on top of us and we have to advance. So it's human from us to forget the top and the bottom 10%. So the thing is to focus on the three groups that we have in the classroom, okay? Subconsciously, we feel that the top percent do not need our help, but they do. That's why I told you to give them extra challenges, right? To make them go beyond, for example, to find answers to their questions online, to prepare the next topic, for example, right, in advance of the class. What happens with the bottom 10%? Give them extra attention in quotation marks, of course, by giving them extra assignments, okay? Asking them to tell you what they have understood or haven't understood from the class that you presented, okay? So we have to think about everybody, okay? And I know it's a big challenge, that's right, specifically during these times, okay? But when we get back to our classes, I think that we're going to be thinking about everything I told you today, right? Focus your attention on the three groups of students that you have. We have the high flyers, we have the slow learners, and we have the bulk, which is the rest of the class, okay? How are you going to encourage them? Maybe not, it's just an idea. Just asking them to answer a question, for example, just to you, not for the whole class, because that's when students feel shy. They feel they feel that the others are going to make fun of this student because they are probably going to answer incorrectly, right? So maybe let's have like a separate time for this student to give you the answer in this case, okay? Okay, now, how do we create confident learners? What is the main concern of our students when they have to participate orally in the classroom? That's a question for you.
We can need to support them in the classroom.
You need to what, sorry?
We need to support them in the classroom.
Okay. They fear to make a mistake. Somebody says in the chat that people will laugh. The laughing, the fun, the bullying is like their main concern, right? Yes, I recommend you to use the chat, or if you're going to use the microphone, please silent or mute it after you participate.
We need to
And you have,
control the situation with the students.
oh, well, somebody was saying something. Okay, now, their main concern is to be afraid of speaking, okay? Based on concerns of making mistakes or looking foolish in front of their classmates, right? Okay, take into account that a blended approach can also be used by learners to revise and consolidate what they have learned in the classroom or simply to practice more. So this is not a chance for them to test them. You are not going to test the students. Tell them that. Tell them that they're learning, okay? If they are afraid to participate, you can do what I told you, to ask them separately in another window, in another chat, in another time, right, to give you their answers, for example, okay? You know, the blended learning approach allows students to participate and practice on their own, okay? Or with the peers, for example, if we are having a group session, okay? So let's try to make things easier for them, okay? This is not the time. This is not the time for telling students how bad, how not appropriate they are right now, but how they can be better in the future, okay? That's one thing. Okay, learning autonomy is another benefit of blended learning. And here I have a quote by Holek, and it says that best teacher learner relationship is the one that tends to the way, because that means that both teacher and learner have fulfilled their roles. The teacher by supporting their learner's needs and wishes, and the learner by taking responsibility for their own learning. I think this is a great quote, okay? I don't mean that you won't be needed in the future. Of course, we all need teachers because we need a person, a face, a human body, making gestures, for example, to explain something, okay? Um, so it would be great. Yeah, you have a great responsibility, that's right. Uh, we need to learn that we need to support our students, we need to fulfill their needs, of course, and students have to realize that they have a responsibility on their shoulders, okay? Because this will help, this will suit better for teenagers maybe, or adult learners. If you're teaching adult learners, for children we need like to be with them practically all of the time with the support of our parents. But for adult or older learners, we need to take into account that it's a responsibility, okay? I think for young adult teachers, I think things are quite easier, right? Because, you know, they are bigger, they are grown-ups, right? So they understand that this is something that they have to do on their own because it will benefit them, okay? Somebody saying that there's an online course Virginia is following, and yeah, her teacher told her that, or her classmates told her that her English was not helping her to take an English course, and she was very nervous and she couldn't put or connect her ideas together. But okay, she was kind of discouraged. Yeah, that's a thing there. Okay, yeah, I understand that. That happens not only to students but for us teachers as well, because teachers, we are also learners at the same time. We learn from our students and we are learning new things with this type of sessions, for example. Okay. Okay, now somebody mentioned something about the flipped classroom, and I think this is the perfect way of using the blended learning. Okay, you know what the flipped classroom is, right? It's a type of blended learning where students view their lecture material at home and they do the coursework in class. Maybe this is what can help when we get back to the classroom. Okay, you're giving them lots of materials these days, I think. You're giving them content, you're giving them examples, you're showing them pictures, you're sending them reading, texts, of course, and well, they will need to be ready for what's coming next. So when you are in the classroom, I think the official date, at least improved for starting classes, physical classes, is May, right? So take this advantage to collect all of the information you need to transmit to your students so that you can test them in the classroom. This is the perfect time to do the flipped learning, okay? Give them content, give them material, okay? Yeah, you are committed to teaching, of course. Provide them with examples, lots of examples. Mimicking always works. I like gesturing and using my hands a lot, all of the times. This is like things that work when we want to make students understand something, to explain content, to explain meaning or vocabulary, for example. Okay, use everything that you have at your disposal, not only your body, but of course material, right? Documents that you can use. You can do research, okay, and you can give this and share with your students. I think the thing is sharing here. Okay, sharing. You are sharing with the students more than teaching, okay, because you're sharing your time, you're sharing a space in your house as well, right? That's why it's very important to be connected with our students at that level, okay? Very good. Now, maybe you are thinking how to introduce blended learning or flip learning, etc. I suggest starting little by little, right? For example, Richmond Learning Platform allows you to give digital feedback, for example, okay? You can switch your feedback to digital assessment. How are you going to do that? By using a learning management system like the Richmond Learning Platform, okay? This is going to be effortless for your teachers because you will have everything at hand, the tools are there, and you will see the results instantly. Therefore, the feedback will be instant as well. Don't let's don't let's not just use this like do it physical, but also online by using the learning management system, right? Uh, we can use automated assignments. Can we introduce that? We can set digital revision tasks and then use the results to inform the class too, okay? One way of using this is to applying it inside the classroom, and this digital revision will allow everybody to see the results. I mean, the peers in the classroom are going to benefit from the results obtained by specifically one student, okay? Yeah, they can do this at home, of course, that's what they're doing right now, and they can access the data to see any weak spots for the class as a whole. We can explore group projects, and that's something that you mentioned in the chat. I saw a lot of responses telling, sharing that this is a good way of making students participate. We can engage students in group projects that can make the most of these tools. It is a great way to maximize the effectiveness of blended learning or flipped classroom methodology as well, okay? Again, learning management systems, Richmond Learning Platform, for example, can make this seamless, okay? Like the transition can be smooth. And it also means that students can use the same tools, not only in their homes, but also in the classroom, right? So we are going to be changing from the traditional to the digital thing, even when we get back to classes, sorry, okay? So they are going to be like familiarized with this type of teaching. Now, blended learning has some challenges as well, right? The first one is the training and support. Somebody mentioned that in the chat, okay? Teachers need to be prepared, okay? And as I told you before, this caught us by surprise, but let's take this as an opportunity to get better, to be informed, to be trained. And of course, taking into account that everything we're doing right now is going to support our students, okay? Now, we need to be creative and resourceful. Now, these days, some of us are kind of not in the best of our moods, but we need, because the students are expecting teachers to use appealing resources, right? And we need to make them to explore English through different learning experiences, right? So let's try to get a moment to think, right? Maybe before we start teaching or maybe sometime at night, and try to put ourselves in the students' shoes. What will interest them? Okay. What will challenge them and motivate them? Watching me in front of the camera? Okay, I will do that. Giving them a lot of exercises online, if that works, why not? Of course. The context might be appropriate as well. This is the appropriate context, for example, to use blended learning. We are forced to be in our homes and deliver classes by using technology, okay? Some of you have to adapt, that's right, and you have to move students or move yourselves from your comfort zones, that's right, yes. And well, the context, I mentioned it already, the appropriateness, is it appropriate for my students to give them this specific tool, right? Maybe using Facebook is not the best tool to use with little children, for example. Can you use your cell phones and create WhatsApp groups? Yeah, that might help. You have to think, you know your students, of course. I know, well, classes haven't started at all or completely yet, but you know, if you've been working in that school for a certain period of time, you know what they need, why, what they might not need, what they might be familiar with or comfortable with as well, okay? And of course, we need to be ready to handle problems, okay? Because students are technophobic, teachers can be technophobic as well. Uh, but we have to face the situation. We need to be using technology these days. We use it every day with our cell phones, when we check our mails, when we connect to Instagram, when we send chats, when we receive mails, when you receive this type of virtual courses. So everything is appropriate, the context, the resourcefulness we need these days as well. Okay, be ready. Be ready for what's coming. Okay, I think the best is yet to come, right? In terms of teaching, of course, and preparation and interest. Okay.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yep. Let me show you just this last slide. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is like things that are not true for blended learning. Sorry. Okay. Don't fear this. Okay. This does not make students work in isolation. This does not mean less work for us. And I know that you are 100% with this one. And it's not just for gifted students or the ones who are excellent students or for the ones who want to get extra credit. And it's not student-centered. It's also, it comes from the teacher as well, right? You need to be there for them, okay? This is what I think blended learning is and what it isn't too, okay? For students with special needs, we need a different training for that because that's a different topic, as well as with learning styles and multiple intelligences. We might find some other time to talk about this, okay? I don't know, well, Jimena is there. There are people asking questions. My email is there in the last slide. I don't know if we have time for maybe 2 minutes of questions. Jimena, you tell me.
Yes, we can have 5 minutes of questions. We can have teachers open their microphones if they want to interact with you directly.
Yeah.
But just
But
remember
Jimena is going to
turn them
control,
off.
I mean, because we cannot have 10 microphones open at the same time.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it's in your hands, Jimena.
Yes, feel free. If you have any questions that you want to ask directly to Paola, please feel free to open your microphones, but don't forget to turn them off once you've asked your question. I'm here monitoring when someone opens a mic. I think Clara wanted to ask a question. Paola, can you go back to your previous slide? Please, they're asking for the previous one.
Wait, yeah, there it is.
There you go. Thank you.
All right. There have been many issues using this technology-based instruction with our students. One of them that I found is that I have classes from 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock. So I have
Wow.
asked my students to become connected by that time. Out of the 28 students, I only had about 8 students. Now, I asked them what happened. So they said, not everybody has internet connection. That's one thing. The other thing is that not everybody has a laptop and not everybody has a smartphone. So this is a real issue. So what I did is in my syllabus or in my lesson plans, I included all the instructions for my students to follow step by step. So what they have to do is to read carefully what they have to do and to develop all the exercises in their notebooks.
Mhm.
One of the ways that I I'm aware that they're doing the activities is through a test which is created in the Moodle platform. That's one thing.
Mhm.
The other thing is that I also use RLP, Richmond Learning Platform,
Great.
to evaluate my students. So now, using technology can be, synchronous or asynchronous.
That's right.
Synchronous, which is real life, real
That's right.
time,
Like what we're
but
having right now.
exactly. But because of the issues that I already mentioned, it's kind of difficult for me to get connected with my students.
Mhm.
The other way is asynchronous. So that's what I'm doing right now. So what I
Right.
do is post all the activities for my
Mhm.
students and they have to follow all the instructions, as I said before. It's 100% students' commitment so that they can carry out all the activities in their time, not
Uh-huh.
my time, their
That's
time.
right.
Miss, can you
They
please
have to
repeat the two
adapt.
types?
Synchronous and
Synchronous,
asynchronous. Synchronous means when the learning is happening at the same time, like we're doing right now. Like I'm talking to you, you're answering, you're using the chat. And asynchronous is
Yeah.
when you first give them the assignment, for example, or you give them the content, and then later on you meet and share and correct and give feedback, etc.
Yeah, I know, but right now there are some books that offers different platforms that I think they are like unsynchronized because
Asynchronous.
you just have to follow instructions and you have to present homeworks, and I think it's really simple in
Well,
comparison with this because
yeah,
this
well,
dude, you know.
the thing is that we have to adapt to what we have. I know, as I told you like 3 times now, this caught us by surprise. We didn't know this was going to happen, right? So we have to adapt and work with what we have at hand. If you have a platform, great. If you have internet connection or your students have internet connection, wonderful, right? But if not, working asynchronously might work. You can send them assignments online with specific instructions, very detailed instructions, and then you can check the results later on. Okay, you have to
Okay,
find a specific time to gather with your students and share the content or the learning or the homework, whatever you assign or give them. Okay.
okay, but
Excuse me.
do you think this is going to work with kids of elementary school?
It might work. Yes, why not? We're adapting. Not only teachers, but students and parents know that this is happening, so they will have to do this. Okay. I think it won't work 100% of the time, but at least we're getting students trained in this way of teaching, I think, right? So it will take time for us in Peru. It's This is our fourth week at our homes, and I don't know if all of the schools in Peru are already used to this type of working. I don't know. Some schools
Oh,
might
but
be
we have
struggling, some teachers might be struggling with this type of teaching, but we have to give it some time, I think. Okay. If you have any
however,
questions, you can
I
please
have a
use the chat
question.
window and send the comments there. We have 2 more minutes before we leave. I know that we have some things to do. Uh,
um, I
or
just
we
have
have,
a
you
question.
have my
Can I
email
ask you a
here and you
question?
can write me whenever you want and I can answer your questions, right?
Yeah,
Um,
the chat, I need to close the virtual classroom now. So if you have any questions, Paola,